today. And boy, do we have a bunch. Okay. Hi, my name is Jenny Lanier, and I would like to just begin by saying my farm, we are the fourth generation. My kids are actually fifth generation on this farm, and it started with my great-grandpa. He purchased it in the 1920s, actually, and he started clearing land and everything, and each generation we've improved on it, and my parents, Peggy and Jerry, did a lot with it, and actually the most improvements they've done with it. And so now my husband and I are we've purchased the cattle. Now we're kind of a team with our family. We're doing the family farm thing, and we've got chicken houses. My husband and I, we manage them. My parents own them, and then the cows we purchase from them. So the two actually go hand in hand together, because the chicken house helps support the farm by, like, the chicken litter. It's the best fertilizer. It's got potash, and anyway, so we spread it on our fields, and our soil just gets really nutritious, and it's good for our hay and our cattle. They like to eat the grass, and anyway, so we're try to put more into our soil to make it as healthy as possible. And so actually right now we're in the chicken house, one of them. We have 4, and we currently do not have chickens, so we've got some downtime, and during this downtime we do renovations. And because the bad thing about the chicken litter is it will eat up anything and make materials deteriorate, get rusty and corroded, and so from time to time we have to do renovations and stuff. Of course, normal wear and tear, but right now we are having all these cables redone on these nesting boxes here, and these are stainless steel cables. This is all connected throughout the whole house, and it's a lot of weight, thousands of pounds. I have no idea how much, but it's a lot, and we've seen it fall before, and it could be deadly if these things ever fell on top of a person or anything. And anyway, inside here is these are the nesting boxes. The chickens pop in here, and they somehow know to lay their eggs in here, and then they'll just come down this conveyor belt right here, and it all goes down to one end, and there'll be someone sitting there at the table picking up eggs coming in on each. There's a conveyor belt on each side, and they're putting the eggs in the egg carton, and then we've got 2 sides, so there's actually 2 tables with 4 belts, and you can speed them up, run them slow, run them fast. And right now we've got the pads out of here because we're sanitizing, spraying them down, and disinfecting them. That's one thing. Before we get a new flock in, we have to disinfect everything in here. We're actually out of birds right now because of this COVID-19 crisis, and you've probably heard a lot of the packing plants and processors have closed down or are taking less. They're running at half capacity, some of them, so that's why we're out of birds right now. But we are on schedule to get some in 5 weeks, so that's why we're completely doing all these renovations and things. And here's one of the egg tables where the eggs come in, and when it's hooked up, the belts come in through these windows, and they run down here, and if there's any feathers or poop or anything, we'll have buckets here, and they just fall into those buckets. And so someone's sitting right here in the middle with their egg carton, and they're just picking up with both hands. And then we use these scratch pads. If there's ever any dirt or poop or anything on the eggs, you just take your scratch pads and you scratch off the stuff. They really don't want you to wash them or use wet rags, because eggs have a protective coating around them, and it helps their fertility be higher if you can refrain from washing them and getting them wet. So that's why we use the scratch pads, and they actually work really well. Hi everyone. I would like to show you what the day in the life of the chicken farmer looks like. These eggs come in on these conveyor belts, and you just place them into these plastic crates, pointed side down, with no feathers and no poop. And as you can tell, they come in pretty quickly. You can speed your belt or slow it down, which typically mine runs slow. And after a while, you end up with lots of eggs. And these little guys in here are the ones making all the fuss. Chickens. But as far as biosecurity, even during off time, when we have chickens, we are very particular. We cannot have any other growers come here on our property. We have to stay off of each other's property in case, say, ever the bird flu or anything got out. That way it'll be contained to your farm. We keep a gate closed. We have foot pans with this disinfectant solution. We have to refresh every other day. Anytime you come in the house or on the farm, you have to dip your feet in this solution. And we have to wear these rubber yellow shoes because they make us paint them yellow so that we won't go to Walmart in them, and we'll be too embarrassed, you know, to walk around in Walmart. Of course, when you're walking around with the chickens, they think it's big pieces of corn. They start pecking at your feet. And you notice I got my pants rolled up because I have to have chicken britches because I don't want them dragging all over the floor. Normally I'll wear high waters. But anyway, so yes, biosecurity is very important. And then in here is where we'll keep the eggs when they cool. Bring them down to around 65 degrees. If we can cool them, that'll help stop them from incubating until they get to wherever they're going to get to incubate into little chicks. And that's what these are. These are layers, and so the eggs are shipped off to different companies, and then they're hatched at hatcheries and become little chicks, and then they do different things with them after that point. But these are very big birds, so they're raised for genetically for meat, to put on a lot of meat, and they grow fast. And when we get them, they won't lay eggs for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then you'll see 1 egg one day, and the next day you'll see 8 eggs, and then you'll see 20 eggs, and then within 1 week there'll be like 600 eggs coming in, and then it will slowly go up, and then we'll be getting over 10,000 eggs a day per chicken house. So it'll reach peak, and it'll hold that for hopefully like 4 or 5 weeks, and then it'll slowly start tapering off. And then after 10 months, they pick up our chickens, and then we have 2-week turnaround to get the houses all cleaned and disinfected and set up and ready to go again, and then we'll get more chickens. So we are with Keith Smith. That's who the company that supplies our birds, and they're out of Hot Springs. It is actually their birds. They own the birds, and we're the growers. We help take care of them, of course feed them, water them, make sure they stay healthy, and we do everything we're supposed to do. Give them good quality eggs, packaged just the way they want them, and then they'll pick them up every other day. They send a truck in to pick them up, and so basically we get paid on production, ever how many eggs, and fertility as well. They want fertility to be over 80%, and based on those numbers, and our feed conversion is how we get paid per dozen. And one of the hardest things is there is a bad side to farming, and you know, if you're a farmer, generally you're an animal lover, and so when you see, you know, there's a bad side of it where you see like an animal suffering of old age, or you know, if it's sick or if it's lame, and you just gotta put it out of its misery, so to speak. But in a way, you wouldn't be able to sit there and watch something suffering. That would be way worse than just going ahead and you know, doing what nature's going to do in a matter of time anyway. So kind of save on their suffering. Have in the past used antibiotics. We actually haven't had to in a very long time, but yes, if we have to, we will definitely give it to them to help them get over their sickness. But we haven't had to do that forever. We mainly just stick to the wormers, vaccines, of course, but yes, if we have to, we will, because it'll help. Sometimes it's like getting a vitamin B shot. If you're sick, you want to get over it as quickly as possible. Oh, the best thing about farming, I would say, my husband would say this too, is the freedom. We enjoy just being in nature. I know I enjoy people and the public too, but just being your own boss, being out here in nature, getting your job done on your schedule, you know what you've got to do. Nobody calls in sick. There's no drama, so to speak. You're just, you can only get mad at yourself if the job doesn't get done. And anyway, I love doing my job. I'll put on my headsets. I've got tons of acres I have to bush hog and mow and keep up with. By the time I get done, it's time to start over again, but I'll just listen to my music or my news station, and then just do my thing on my own schedule, and I love it. It's the best job I've ever had. I've done office job, I've done restaurant jobs, and by far this is my favorite. I wish they knew that it's really important to think about growing your own and being self-sufficient. This crisis has opened a lot of people's eyes, and even ours. We made our house, at our house, we made our garden area bigger this year. We're planting more fruit trees, more blueberry bushes. There's people need to really think about being self-sufficient, growing your own. There is nothing more satisfying than being able to go out to your garden patch and pick out fresh salad greens and go inside and cook your own meal, or have your own fresh beef, fresh eggs. The only bad thing about eggs is we cannot have our own free-range chickens, because we have chicken houses, and they are really particular about us not cross-contaminating, if any bird flu or something got out. But anyway, it is very important for people to think about that and how to preserve your food. Dry beans, freezing, canning, that kind of thing. Thinking about, getting a piece of land if you have to lease it or whatever, and raising animals or vegetables or both.
So what is a cow-calf operation?
Well, that's all I do. I breed the mama cows and have the calves and sell the calves. And I don't bring any cows from outside sources in. Just keep it all right here. I don't pull my bulls or nothing. That way I've always got calves at all times. We've got some Wagyu cows in here. I'm not real impressed with the calves that they have. They seem to throw out hairy, knotty looking calves, but if I took them to the sale barn, they wouldn't bring nothing, and the calf does. Whether it's a low-end calf or not, it brings a lot more than taking them to the sale barn, so I might as well just keep them until they're spent, But when these get old, I get rid of them. I've got a small herd over there. It's got 25 mama cows and one bull, and all the heifers that come from there come back over here to replace these older cows that are getting spent.
And what is a heifer?
A heifer is a female cow that's never been bred.
So how do you manage their pastures? What do they eat every day?
Well, they got a variety of grasses out here. We got Kentucky 31 fescue. We got the non-endophyte fescue, which is what we have right here.
So do you guys supplement with any feed, or is it mostly just forage?
All these cows eat grass. That's it. Nothing but grass. Grass and hay.
So what all do you have to do to make sure there's enough grass here for them to eat?
Well, I mean, normally I spray the entire farm a couple of times a year. I'll spray it in February. I'll spray it for buttercup. You see over there where the buttercup is, it will actually choke out the good grass, and they will not eat the buttercup. They'll starve themselves before they'll eat that, at least mine. I don't know about everybody else's. But yeah, normally I'll spray in February. Of course, this winter was the wettest winter I've ever seen in my life, so I was only able to get about 60 acres sprayed. Since I wasn't able to spray, I just went through and I bush hogged the entire farm except for that real wet, that's a bog over there. You can actually probably find alligators over there.
What about fertilizing?
Well, the chicken houses, I'll get the entire farm spread with chicken litter. I got enough out of 4 houses to do the entire farm. But then after that, I harvest that crop of hay, the first cutting. Then I have to go back and put out potash and urea. You know, but it's kind of a hard thing to get the urea out right before rain. You know.
Anyway, I was talking about how good the chicken litter is for the fields. We also, another good thing, the chicken litter, you know, as the grass is growing, we've got our pastures laid out to where we can rotate our big herd all the way around, and ideally by the time they come back around to the first pasture that we started them in, it's roughly like 25 or 28 days. So like this pasture right here, they can spend, you know, depending on how good the grass is growing, about 5 to 7 days grazing this, and we want them to graze it pretty good. We don't want them to graze it to the ground, of course, overgraze it, but anyway, it keeps your like your barley coming up and the fescue low. You know, we want to let the good things come in and keep the bad things down. So having them graze it pretty heavily, and then we'll rotate them to the next pasture and let this pasture rest, and hopefully by the time they have rotated all the way around the farm and get back to this pasture, it'll be nice fresh green shoots of grass ready to graze again, and that'll the better organized we are with that, the more we'll save on our hay. So then after summer kicks off and we have a lot of grass growing, we'll cut out some of those pastures for hay, and we'll just strictly bale those. And but we do always try to put back into the pastures, because if we bale them all the time and just keep taking nutrients from it, then that'll zap some of your nutritional values. So we want to, sometimes we'll bush hog and just leave all the grass clippings there, and that helps, you know, keep your organic material in your pastures better. And so we don't want to over hay, we don't want to overgraze, but a good mix of all of that, and it works out really good.
So what do you think's the hardest thing about being in the cattle business?
Well, in my case, I've got a 3-generation farm with 3 generations. It took 3 generations to build the fence, and all at once it's starting to fall apart, and all these end posts and stuff are having to be replaced. So you stretch a fence, you fix a fence, and all it does is keep it. So I've decided I'm going, the last fence I built over there, don't cut it. So from now on, it takes me forever to do a H-brace, but I want it to be there forever.
So what's the best thing about being in the farming business?
Best thing about being in the farming business is, without a doubt, the freedom and being out here in God's creation, the peace and the quiet. And, you know, if you want to be lazy on a day, you can, but you know, you just got to pay for it later. You know, you don't. You know, there's no cattle prod up the rear end. You control your pace. And you know, you can take as much time. Well, I say that, no, you can't. But I kind of do a lot of jumping around. I'll start a little thing over here, and I'll start something over there. I can't never really stick with one thing because I got chicken houses, and there's always something needs to be fixed. And I'll do a little bit on that, and do a little bit over here, cut a tree off over here, and then I got to go back some other day and haul the tree off, and just kind of doing several different things at one day. You know, in one day, but never actually. Seems like I'm always busy and never getting anything done. But I love it. You know, it's a good life. God just blessed me I always knew this life fit me. I always loved working outdoors, and he just blessed me where I was able to have this beautiful work on this beautiful farm, and it's God's farm. He just let me live here and use it, you know.
So what do you wish people who don't know much about farming or maybe haven't been around it, what do you wish they knew?
Well, I don't need the government telling you how to do it, because there's, you know, a little small operation like this is can't have the government getting their hands making things any more difficult than it is, because you kind of seems like whatever dollar you make goes right back into it.
And probably the last question, with everything going on right now, people are worried about meat at the grocery store. So how hard is it for you as a producer to sell beef directly to somebody in town?
Oh, it's easy to do. The problem is having them butchered. At this time during this pandemic, I've got 4 over there right now that need to be butchered, but they can't take them until July. So, and they can only take 2 then, and then they can take another 2 in October. So, yeah, you can't just at this time we're living in right now, you can't just take these cows and have them butchered and start selling them to the public. Plus, besides that, you got to take them to a USDA certified butcher, and that's the only place I know is
Pottsville.
Pottsville, yeah. And of course, you know, he's going to be backed up probably for a year. So
explain that a little bit. Why can't you just go to somebody, to any butcher local, and be able to sell beef straight out of the freezer?
well, because it's a requirement. If you're selling to the public, it has to be USDA certified. So yeah, there's plenty of beef, there's plenty of meat. There's no problem with that. It's just the processing is the problem. If there was more USDA places, you know, available in the state of Arkansas, where, you know, people would be doing a lot more selling to the public.
Anyway, hopefully things will get back to normal, because in the beginning we thought this wouldn't affect us, because you think everybody's got to eat, so there's the same amount of mouths to be fed. But unfortunately, we have seen the effects that, yes, everyone is affected by this. And so from the cattle industry to the chicken business, it's been a big eye-opener. But we're making do, and we know everything's going to be fine.